Hey, it's OGM17 here, back with another video. Today I have the highly anticipated, long-awaited figure, the HIYA Toys Godzilla 2000. Check out this wonderful box art. I've really been enjoying the Toho Classics box art that HIYA's been doing. Very nice stuff. Yeah, this figure has been... It's been a while since it's been announced, and multiple delays and all that good stuff. I've been waiting for this figure ever since they first announced they're doing the Toho Classics line, and then they showed off those early prototypes at some toy fair, and I was just so freaking hyped to get this figure. This is actually a figure that my lovely wife got me. Thank you. Shout out to her. But the other day I told her, like, hey, remember that Godzilla figure you ordered for me like a year or two ago? And she's like, what Godzilla figure? Just to show you how long it's been. But yes, I am very, very excited, very much impressed with what HIYA's done. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check this figure out. And here is Godzilla 2000 from HIYA Toys in all of its lovely glory. Check out this wonderful, wonderful figure. I am so freaking happy it is finally here. I've been waiting for so long, and as always, I think HIYA has done a wonderful job of capturing this amazing Godzilla design into a figure form. Yeah, it's been a long minute, but it is finally here. Look how fierce those eyes are. Detail is immaculate. I love the bold magenta purple colors on the dorsal spikes in the back. Very nice. I think HIYA's done a great job here. Yeah, as you have gathered from the channel, if you've been watching, I am a big Godzilla 2000 fan. It's one of my favorites. Go back and forth whether or not it's my all-time favorite, but anytime I see this guy in figure form, I get super excited and just needs to be in my collection. And so, as I said, when I first saw those prototypes, I knew this guy had to be in my collection, and he is finally here. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the details of this figure. So out of the box, here is your Godzilla 2000. Let's go ahead and take a look at details. And I think by far, out of the classic Toho lines, this one is probably the most detailed. You have all of these ridges and spikes going all out through the sculpt. You have these nice dark charcoal Godzilla gray colors, bold piercing yellow eyes. Looking at his claws, got that kind of bony brown color. Each of his teeth painted individually. And again, like I pointed out, this very nice bold magenta color. You have this nice transition from the back to the spikes itself, and it looks very nice. And as you go through the tail, it fades out a little bit into, you know, the standard Godzilla base color. Yeah, I mean, me personally, no real complaints here. Looking at him from the front, he's got that fierce mean mug look, no derpiness from this Godzilla, and I think they just did a really great job with the details in this figure. Here's a side profile view of the figure, looking very nice. He has articulation options you can do here to get him in a pose that you want. Very nice tail, we'll look at that later. But yeah, I mean, really for me, no complaints here with the details. I think they've very much captured the amazing, fierce aesthetic of the Godzilla 2000, and it looks freaking awesome. I'm still just so blown away that this is actually here. So yeah. So now let's look at articulation. These suits are pretty heavy from the movies, so they didn't have a whole lot of range of movement articulation, but it's interesting to see the approaches they came with this figure. So first off, starting at the head, it does have a hinge jaw. It does have the infamous tongue stuck to the roof problem that the other HIYAs seem to get, but the tongue is articulated as well. As you can see, you're able to flip it up and down, and might not have shown this, but pretty good detail in the mouth as well. So yes, articulated jaw. The head has a pretty good range of movement, and I think that's a big part of that is because this middle neck section here is kind of on two shells that sit on the bar where the ball joint of the head connects to. So it allows you to get some more movement on the head than, I mean, honestly, than I expected from a Godzilla 2000 figure. So very nice stuff there. Able to do some twists and turns. Head is able to swivel a bit. You're able to move the head down about this much range. It does start to break up the mold a bit when you do that stuff, but you know, I like the option of being able to do that. You're also able to turn the head up looking this much. And then, of course, the main body torso ball joint system. Able to swivel around. You're able to move the body down this much, and then with that, move the head down further. So I don't know if you want your, actually that looks pretty sick. Look at that. That guy is freaking fierce. Yeah, it's interesting to see that, and I haven't personally had this other figure in hand, but the Godzilla, was it Godzilla Evolved figure, had that interesting little separated dorsal spike that you're able to kind of swivel around. We haven't really seen that come back up, but I feel like that's something they could have done here, so that way you could just kind of get more, I don't know, maybe more range in the figure, but not a big problem, to be honest, at least for me. But it is just something to note that when you do put him in these poses, it does break up the mold of the figure a bit, but alas, I think it's still very nice. So that is the head and torso system. It's also able to swivel, pretty good range of motion, but as you can see, like I was talking about here, when the plates kind of get caught up on each other, so you gotta kind of move it around so you're able to get to those different poses. Arms are pretty well done. This figure is a lot less stiff than the GMK Godzilla, which I appreciate. So you're able to get a good Godzilla T-pose here, able to move the arms and hands around. This does come with alternate pair of hands, like this, so they're more crunched up. I prefer the more open up hands like this. I just think it looks nicer on the Godzilla 2000, but again, nice to have options. So then you're able to move the arms back into the downward pose that we see Godzilla 2000 in. Looking at the legs, it's an interesting approach. You have the, big thigh here and the inner kind of knee locked between the inner thigh and lower leg here where the foot is. There isn't a whole lot of movement going on in the knee here. In fact, I don't really think there is much at all. Most of the movement you're getting the leg down here is going to be at this bottom part. Feet are able to swivel around a bit. It's a little locked up, but probably with some heating I can loosen it up. The legs here are able to, you could probably do a full 360 with them. I'm not going to force mine because of history with figures breaking on me, and I really don't want this guy to break on me, but if you really wanted to push your figure to the limits, I think you probably could. You do see the mold kind of clash each other in certain movements, but yeah, you're able to put him in a more crouched position like this. You can push the legs up to have him stand more upright, and then push the torso so he's able to be more upright, or if you want, kind of a crouch battle pose, you're able to do that as well. The tail, now this is something that I was interested in seeing how they're going to do. It is pretty dang good. I mean, it's nothing crazy like the Hokkaido tail. I haven't warmed up the joints here, so maybe I could get some more movement with this tail, but it is a lot more articulated than I was expecting it to be. And I don't know, something about this tail is just very satisfying. Woo! Very satisfying, sorry about that. Very satisfying to move around and play with the joints with it. It's just very smooth here. So you're able to do some cool stuff. I think I showed this in my short, but you can get the -1 pose going with this guy. Let me see if I can get that here. Open up the mouth a little. There you go. You get some Godzilla -1, sorry, Godzilla -1 posing action with him. Very, very great figure. I am impressed with the amount of articulation they're able to do with this guy. Just again, given just how heavy those suits were, they didn't really show a whole lot of movement. This guy has a lot of ability for posing, so very impressive there. Alright, so now let's see the size comparison. I want to show off his two brothers from the same line. Here's the 91 Hokkaido Godzilla and the Godzilla GMK, both from the Toho Classics line. So I think the size is pretty accurate. I know this Godzilla was a little smaller in the movies, so it looks pretty good to me. I think this also highlights what I was talking about earlier with just the more detail that you can see present here. It's just more, the details kind of pop out more. This first guy is a smooth little baby over here. This one starts to get more details popping out, and this one's, it almost feels just like full out. Those details are very present. Let's go ahead and take another look at, here he is with one of my other favorite figures that I have, the Burning -1 figure from Super 7, obviously a lot larger in scale. Here is a NECA Godzilla versus King Kong from the old show era. Love this guy, this little derpy guy. Alright, so now we're at the segment of the video that is being heavily discussed and debated online, and probably not in the most productive of ways. So originally I recorded this yesterday when I did the rest of the video, but after finishing up that video and having some time to think about it and watching other people's videos and just seeing the discussion around these two figures, I wanted to redo this part to hopefully make my stance more clear and help promote more productive conversations. So going back to when these figures were announced, people were already taking sides, which is fine. You could be a fan of one company or you could be a fan of another company. You have your certain priorities that you want in a figure, and maybe one company does that better than the other, or vice versa. And that's all right. I think the problem that happens is people maybe get a little too passionate and just go straight to negativity or comments or discussions that just aren't really productive to, the hobby that we're in. So with that said, I think if you have an issue of one figure or the other, the cool thing is we have options. Godzilla 2000 fans, we are freaking eating good. We've had stuff from Super 7, we've had Monster Arts, and now we have HIYA. And I really think both of these figures are freaking amazing and look really cool together on the shelf. Now, if you ask me which figure I think is better, in my opinion, I like the HIYA more, because to me, I think it is more screen accurate to how he looks in the movie, and for Godzilla 2000 being one of my favorite Godzillas, to me that's more important, is to have my Godzilla 2000 look more closely than to how he appears in the movie. And just, looking at this head sculpt, I think they really captured that. And I really love how bold his magenta colored spikes, or dorsal spikes, whatever you want to call them, look on the back. I think they did an excellent job with the detail on this figure. Now, that's not to say the detail on this figure is bad, but it's a little more stylized, and we can see that. Another thing that this figure has going over this figure is this one's more articulated. It's got more technical stuff going on in the background that lets you put him into some, more fun and dynamic poses. Not to say that this one's articulation and posing's bad, but it's definitely not as dynamic as this one. But at the end of the day, I think the great thing about this is releasing two amazing products like this helps promote a good sense of competition within companies and pushes them to do better. And then we, the customers, we're the ones winning at the end of the day because we're getting great figures like these two. So that's my thoughts on it. I think if you were to ask me which one I would recommend, I would say I like accuracy, and so I would go with the HIYA. But if you're someone that likes more articulation and posing, I think Monster Arts is the one for you. There's also the conversation about price. This is way cheaper than this was. Fair amount of price difference between the two. So, but in the end, I think both are really great figures. They both do something better over the other. And really it's just what is important to you as the collector or the consumer. What do you want in your Godzilla figure? Because one might fit that bill and the other one won't. That's alright. That doesn't mean you have to go online and trash on the other figure. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you want to express that, do it in a productive way. Why don't you like this figure? Why don't you like this figure? Why do you like this one more than this one? I know companies like HIYA, just from experience and what I've seen online, they read these discussions. So they know when people aren't happy with a figure. And more often than not, they usually do, 2.0 versions or beams, and that's a whole other discussion. But more often than not, when they re-release these figures, they're generally an improvement over the original. And so if we can have productive conversations that express why we think a figure came short or why a figure is doing super awesome, companies are able to use that and make banger figures like these two. So that's my thought on these. I think they're both excellent, and I'm glad to have more than one representation of Godzilla 2000 on my shelves. And if you're a fan of Godzilla 2000, I really don't think you could go wrong with either or. It's just what you prioritize in your figure. And with that, we've come to the end of the video. So once again, it's been the HIYA Toys Godzilla 2000 figure. Again, I am very impressed with the work they've done. They've continued to improve on their figures, especially in this Toho line. So I am just very ecstatic that this figure is finally here. If you're wanting to get this figure in your own hands, I personally like Kalki's a lot, or INS Hobby is also good, but choose a retailer that you trust and enjoy getting your figures from. Let's see, what do you think of this figure? I personally, again, as you see from the video, I love this figure, but let me know what you think. Is this a figure you're interested in getting? Do you already have it? What are your thoughts on it? Other than that, that will be the end of this video. Got some more stuff coming out soon, but until then, you enjoy collecting your Godzilla figures, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.